Here we are, ready to board up the part 2, lesson 1 from Elegoo. And honestly, this is an incredibly simple, great introduction to how to use a breadboard, how to use the Arduino, and also there's not a lot you need for this project. All right, so we've got here the Elegoo Uno R3. You've got your basic breadboard. You've got your LED light, and we've got 3 resistors in different values. You've got your 220, 1K, 10K. And then we've also got 2 male-to-male wires. And then if you can look at the diagram provided on the screen, we can see this isn't going to take a lot of time because it's not that complicated. But I personally always like to start with the board disconnected because I want to make sure there is no electricity on the breadboard at this stage. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to wire in the light. And we already know the long leg of the two, as we can see here, and I've got a nice red light, the long leg is going to be the positive. So I always like to try and line up my colors with the board. So I'm going to stick the negative end into the negative and the positive into this rail right here. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a 220 resistor and I'm going to put the resistor in the same line, but this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it, so we have to make sure it's in the same line. If it's one off, it will not work. In the line is the LED. Then I'm also going to put it into the positive rail on the breadboard itself. Be very careful. These wires are quite thin, as we can see here. I can move them around, and you want to make sure nothing is touching. Okay, the next step is we've got to put the boards in at this stage. So with these R3 boards, you want to make sure you know which side of the board you're actually using, the analog side or the digital side. Now, the easy way to tell is the digital side is closest to the USB. So that's how I kind of tell. And I'm just going to put these resistors offside, and I'm going to just put the board here so that you can so everything is kind of following the same look as the diagram provided. So I'm going to take my red positive wire and my black wire, and I'm going to just put them in here. And I'm going to take my ground first and ground on here. There's 2 grounds, and I always like to take the closest. That's just a personal preference there. And this pin's a little bit not perfectly straight, and I'm just going to put the ground into the negative side on here. I'm then going to take my red wire, which is going to be my positive wire, and I put my positive wire into the 5 volt, and then I'm going to take the end there, and I'm going to put it into the positive end on here. All right, so now that we've got this all wired up, the next step you're going to have to take is you're going to have to get the cable and just plug the board in. Now, because this project is based just on power, we don't need to load any code into this. Now, if we wanted the light to do anything else, number one, this would not be the most elegant because we're just running power through the light. That's it. If we wanted code, we'd want to switch over the digital end that we have more control over. Okay, we can see the light working, looking bright right here. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to unplug the power on here, and I'm going to take out the 220 resistor, and I'm going to put in the 1K resistor. Now, what resistors do is it restricts the amount of electricity to flow through. So if we plug a higher resistance value, we can notice already on the screen that the light, it still works, but it's not as bright. So again, I'm going to unplug. Then I'm going to take out the 1K, and I am going to wire in the 10K. There, and we can see the power coming down. Okay, that was part 2, lesson 1, LED lights from Elegoo. This is going to be a really short one because we don't have to program, we just have to breadboard it up, and we get the whole effect right there. All right, well, that's it, and let's get making.